I want to try today talk about a very deep concept. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, but I'm going to be able to talk about it. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make any sense of it. Let's go to where we are as the launching pad. We are in the middle of the Igeret Ramban, this ethical will that he wrote to his children. And he says this interesting thing. He says, I'll explain to you how to behave humbly, speak gently at all times, can't go wrong with that. Your head bowed, your eyes looking down to the ground, your heart focusing on God. Don't look at the face of the person speaking to you. That was cultural. And then he says something really shocking. Consider everyone as greater than yourself. Think of other people as greater than you. If he is wise or wealthy, if they're wise or wealthy, well, give them respect because, hey, they're better than you. If he's poor and you're wealthy or wiser than he, I guess he's poor in wisdom as well, consider yourself to be more guilty than he. And he is more worthy than you. Meaning, given what your gifts from God that he gave you, what have you done with them already? Right? You don't know what you've done with them, so therefore consider them more worthy than you. Since when he sins, it's inadvertent, while you act knowingly. What do you guys think about that? Considering everyone is greater than yourself. Is it true?
Well, don't forget he's talking to his children. So he's trying to make a lesson.
But doesn't he, what does that mean? Is he teaching his kids the truth or not?
Depends the definition of greater.
It's the essence of humility.
Exactly.
That what? Everyone is greater than you?
Well,
You should
just be
consider,
humble.
yes, that other people, that you shouldn't judge people. You should judge people from a vantage point of their potential greatness compared to you. Yes.
How do you know that someone has more potential greatness than you do?
You don't. That should be your attitude and perspective towards others. That's the essence of humility. You don't know that.
But why is it true? I don't know. What I'm bothered by is, a sense of we spend most of our life trying to work out the truth of matters, and he's telling me to do something which I'm not sure about. I gotta look at.
It may not be true, but that should be your beginning point when you approach other people. As you learn to know them, you may discover indeed that there are nuances and that they may be advertently bad or foolish or have evil intent, but your initial mindset should be one of humility, that you are no greater than anyone else and you are less great in effect.
It does, and it also says consider. And that when I do a solicitation, I say that. Would you consider a gift of such and such? So when you use the word consider, you're not telling the person, you're just putting that thought in their mind for them to sort of roll it around and make them have a different perspective.
Unfortunately, I like what you're saying, but it's only in the translation. It's not in the Hebrew. It's not in the original, this word consider. He just says, V'chol adam yeh gadol mimcha. Be'einecha, in your eyes. Which, okay, that might give us license to...
Well, it's in your eyes, so in your perception. In other words, what I think what I'm saying and what Ori's trying to say is the Father is just trying for them to have a different mindset in order to live life less about selfish and more about, listen, the way I would write it is not to be not to judge others. And in that way, I'm not saying that they're better or worse. I'm just saying you're not one to make that decision.
But to me, it's advice on initial approach or initial attitude. When you say it may not be true, that you may discover. But I think I read it as an orientation to the world to begin with, right?
I hear what you're saying, and that's a very, it's almost like start off with the benefit of give them the benefit of doubt when you start off.
Yes.
I could be dealing with a great person here, right?
Right.
If I find out later I'm not, okay, what, did I do something wrong? At least I treated them, better than, or I gave them more respect than I should have. I quite like that. I think that's a very, it's a sensible way to go. Don't see anything in his words that imply that this is the initial.
No, you're right. You're right. There
No,
isn't. That's my justification for it.
Yeah. תתנהג במידת הענווה, ללכת בה תמיד. To go in it at all times. So, all times is, even if you get to know the guy a little, keep up with your anava, your humility. Moshe knew people very well, but what really comes from Kabbalistic writings, but one of the main purposes of a prophet, and especially Moses, was that you could go to him with real issues, and as a prophet he could intuit, or he would get prophecy from God about what you should do about it. He would give you guidance about which way to go in life, what you needed to work on, why things were happening to you. I want to take an interesting question. I want to go into a subject called Emet. Emet we normally translate as
Truth.
Right, the truth. What does the Hebrew word Emet mean? Right?
So obviously it doesn't mean truth.
Well, I don't think it means truth in the way that we use it in commonly, right? When we speak about the truth, we speak about fact, right? We often speak about the truth. Really, scientific proof is something you have data, you can prove it. Until you can prove it, you just have opinion, you don't have the truth. So the truth is something you can, and it's the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is the truth of it. It does not look like Judaism sees truth in the same way. And let's go. I'm going to give you, I don't know much about it, but there is a Kabbalistic impression of how God relates to the world. And these, you might be familiar with these. These are called Svirot. Svirot. They are the 10 emanations of God in this world, how God appears in this world, right? So you've got the first, you've got something called Keter, the crown on the top. You've got Chokhmah, Bina, Dat, that's Chabad. Those are the intellectual ones. And then you've got, interestingly enough, Chesed, which we know is loving kindness. We've got Gevurah, which we know as strength, or in another word, Din. Din is law. What's the Din? That relates
That Din.
Beth Din, the house of judgment, exactly, the house of law. And then in the middle over here, we have something called Tiferet. Tiferet translates to beauty, and it's known as the balance between the two. So, and just by the way, it's very interesting over here. They put the names of God that relate to these. So, El, remember sometimes Todah La'el, thank God. El relates to Chesed, God's attribute of what is Chesed? Chesed means there is no consideration of the worthiness of the recipient. I want to do good today. I woke up in the morning in a good mood. I want to share my good mood. I'm like, hey guys, how are you? Do you deserve it? What? I didn't think about that. I just want to pour out my chesed to you. I'm overflowing with love and joy and kindness, right? So that's chesed. Chesed does not take in the recipient at all. Gevura, din, law, is all about the recipient, right? What you get is only what you deserve. That's the law. Tiferet, and by the way, the name Elohim relates to that, right? So when we say Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, we are using God's, right? Now, when we say Eloheinu, that means we recognize God as Elohim, right? He is our God. He is who we recognize as the source of all law, structure, right? He created the world. The laws of nature are all Gevura, right? They are unbreakable laws. They're not nice. They're not nice to anyone. They just are. Tiferet, the balance in the middle, which relates to God's name that we don't say, the Yud and the He and the Vav and the He. That is a balance. That is a balance. How does this balance work? Well, it works like this. Here's chesed. So God decides, you know what? I want to create a world because I want a share of my goodness with others. And that's really what the commentaries say. Why did God decide that? Was he bored? Was he lonely? No. God is perfect. So why did he create a world? To bestow of his goodness upon others. We were created as the recipients of God's loving kindness. Chesed. Ultimately, that's the hope. That's what keeps us going, right? Is that we realize, yeah, it might, in the meantime, okay. God says, but if I just pour out my kindness and give everyone everything, are we going to have spoiled children? Right? Spoiled children they're undeserving. They get way more than they deserve. And then what happens? All sorts of problems. Actually, Kabbalistically, the biggest problem is they don't even appreciate it. If you haven't worked for it, you don't appreciate it. In the Kabbalistic language, it's called Nahamad de Kusufa. The Christians love this phrase, right? The bread of shame. Right? You want to eat bread that you worked for. You don't want, right? Tzedakah recipients, that's the challenge of giving tzedakah, is that the recipient is in Nebuch, right? Right? Do they really deserve it or not? So God says, fine, let them earn it. Let people work. Let me give them a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer Tov. Let them choose. Let people become self-made, right? Let them earn their reward. And that's what Gevura says. The Gevura says, you get what you earn. Now, it's very interesting. We have to go see the first Rashi, one of the first Rashis in the Chumash. The Rashi says like this. I think we've discussed this a few times, but it's a classic, so we can come back to it a few times too. Bereshit, bara, in the beginning, bara means create, he created. the Hebrew verb. He created Elohim, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, the God of Gevura, the God of strict of constraint, the God of you have to earn it. He created a world where we're gonna have to earn it, because that was how ultimately God says my chet is gonna be fulfilled. Now comes along Rashi, Bara Elohim, and of course Rashi says it does not state Bara Hashem, right? The Lord, the merciful one, Bara, right? Adonai. Why not? Because at first God intended to create the world to be placed under the attribute rule of strict justice, right? Livro ba midat hadin. It's called the attribute of law, right? You get what you earn. Ra'ah she'ena olam mitkayam, but he saw that's not going to endure. That's not feasible, right? Sustainability. The first thing God was concerned with was a sustainable world. There it is in the Rashi. He saw that the world was not going to sustain. Hikdim midat harachamim. So he brought forth his attribute of mercy, the shitva lemidat hadin, and he joined it to the attribute of justice. So now we have something else, a third thing called mercy, right? Rachamim. V'hainu diktiv b'yom asot Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. So on the day that Hashem Elokim made the heaven and earth, you see that Hashem was involved. So what does this all mean? There's the Mesilat Yesharim like this. How does mercy work in partnership, aligning it with the meter of justice, right? Shituf means to partner. How do they work in partnership? So the Ramchal says three things. When a person would go against God's will, number one, they should be punished immediately. Number two, they should be punished fully. And number three, they should not be able to undo what they did. Right? That's the law. When the law comes down on you, you face the consequences of your actions. Right? And when the full, what's it called? The full gamut of the full
weight.
The full weight of the law comes down on you, right? You get exactly what you deserve. The full law says you got to sit 20 years. So you sit 20 years. And without probation, right? That's it. Comes along Rachamim. What is Rachamim really? It's taking God's chesed. God saying, listen, I really want to do good here, but this isn't going to work. So therefore, let me adjust it a little. Number one, the punishment is not immediate. Number two, the punishment is not in full weight. And number three, most importantly, there is a possibility for teshuvah, for repentance, where God says, I understand you made a mistake. I give you the opportunity to try a second time. That is, if you think about it, that's really chesed altering din, right? It's God's willingness to do good, not pushing away. Right? Rachamim does not push away din. Chesed pushes away din. You can't have chesed and din in the same place, because chesed is unbridled giving. It's got nothing to do with the recipient. Din is all the recipient. You get what you deserve. Rachamim is a middle balance.
So is that in effect the drama played out in the parsha of Sodom and Gomorrah, in the argument between God and Abraham? Is it Gvura versus Rachamim?
Well, you've raised Abraham. So now let's go to our Siddur. Because if we have three, right? If we have three, let's just go back to our Kabbalistic chart, right? Okay, the way it works is like this. The top Keter is kind of by itself, the crown. The first three, Chachma, Bin, Adat, are intellectual. They relate to our intelligence, right? That's where Chabad comes from. Chabad, right? Chabad, Chachma, Bin, Adat. It's an acronym. It's the intelligence, the wisdom behind it. Then we have these three primary, what's called the seven lower sfirot. The three primary ones are Chachma, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet. Who do they correspond to? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what's Abraham known for? Abraham is all Chesed. He's the guy that opens his tents all for, right? He's like, God, I recognize you as the Baal Chesed. I want to be that guy. Does he ask these three strange guys that appear at his tent, who are you and are you worthy of my hospitality? No. Come in, he says. Let me feed you. Allow me to do chesed to you. That's who I am. Gevura is Yitzchak. Why? Yitzchak's the guy, it's interesting. We call it Akedat Yitzchak. It's the binding of Yitzchak, right? Because what did Yitzchak do? He allowed himself to be bound. He held back completely. He was absolute self-control and strength. That's Yitzchak. Yitzchak's the guy that says, if that's the law, if that's what's required, I don't care. It is what it is, 100%. So Yitzchak is Gevura. And then Tiferet is the combination between the two. And that's Yaakov. So Yaakov becomes the synergy of his father and his grandfather. And who does the Jewish people come from? Yaakov, only the balance. Because Abraham has Yishmael. In Jewish thought, Yishmael stands for licentiousness. Too much chesed, right?
I'm sorry, what does Ishmael come from?
Abraham.
I know. What was the word you used?
What does he represent?
Yes.
Licentiousness, right? Yishmael has unbridled chesed, right? Oh, so then you're in love with everyone, right? Gevura, Yitzchak has Esav, Esau. What does Esau do? Esau in Jewish thought is too much Gevura, murder, right?
And too much strength, and he was strong. He was a big bully man.
Right.
Bully man.
Right. So that lands up in murder. This lands up in adultery. Yaakov, he's got the balance. All his children are the 12 tribes. They're the Jewish people that come from him. Just by the way, if you want to know, Netzach is Moshe, Hod is Aaron, Yesod is Joseph, and Malchut is King David. By the way, when we say God's name, right? So they put you in the English. I like it, right? The Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. We don't pronounce that name because we don't fully comprehend it. We use Adonai. Adonai actually refers to Malchut, King David, God's sovereignty. So
it also has Adonai spot. What is that? I can't see with the red thing.
Oh, Tsevaot. Yeah, that's another name. Right. Right. Okay. Now, something fascinating. Right? Where are we going to put truth? where are we going to put truth? I would simply put truth with law. The law is the truth. Anything else is a deviation from that. So comes along Micha, the prophet, right? His very last word of the prophet Micha is Titain Emet leYaakov. God gave truth to Yaakov, Chesed laAvraham. Right? So, where does truth lie? Truth lies here. Truth lies in Tiferet. Truth lies in the beauty, in the balance of Chesed and Gevura. So, Emet and Din are not always the same thing. Right? Din, the law, is the law. But the Emet, the truth, is over here. It's somewhere in between. It's finding that perfect balance. So, how do you define it? Well, using that Rashi that we saw at the beginning, it's really what works. What is Emet? Says Rashi, right? Why did God take this Midat HaRachamim and start to tamper with the Midat HaDin in order that the world should be what is called mitkayem, right? Kayam means to be established, to exist, right? In order that it should work, that it should be sustainable, right? We all know that someone comes with a great idea and they blah, blah, blah. And we ask ourselves, it become a modern question. I'm sure we didn't ask this 10 years ago, but we ask ourselves every program, is it sustainable? Because if they always, if every becomes a bottomless pit, some causes, right? That are we going to have to sustain this for, charitably forever? Sometimes the answer is yes, but still we need to do it. But we would prefer not to be that, right? We would prefer that things become sustainable. So the truth in Yiddishkeit is not the facts, it's not the law, it's what works. The way God sees it is, the truth is, Shemayim va'aretz should come to their completion. God's got a plan. He's got a wonderful plan for this world. The curtains are down, right? But they're coming up soon, right? God's got a wonderful plan. The Emet, the Talmud says, the word Emet is Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet, Mem, the middle letter of the alphabet, and Taf, the last letter of the alphabet. What's there in the beginning, the middle, and the end? It endures. It's what works. So, just to go back to our Ramban and my question about, what do you mean everyone should be better than, I should look up to everyone? Well, what happens if everyone did that? Well, who would really? No, the Ramban's not dealing with the facts. He's dealing with what works. And I think, or you kind of saying this, I think, with this orientation. It works best to relate to people always that they are greater than you. Don't look down on people. It's much better to be an anav. Is it what we would say true? Not the way we use the word truth. It's not. I'm sure I'm greater than some people. I'm sure a lot of people are greater than me. Right? I'll be shocked if I'm on the bottom. But the best way to live, says the Ramban, is to really honor other people. Look up to them, right? Don't ever look down on a person and think they are schmatter and they're worthless. Don't write off people. Give them the benefit of the doubt. See, respect them. Look, it's a positive disposition to people, which I think it's an amazingly beautiful, idea that you could live this way. Moshe, there probably was never a greater human being than Moshe Rabbeinu. You know, we talk about a gadol, right? Abraham, you said, let's define the word gadol. Gadol means great, means reaching human potential. There was never, even Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did not reach, are never called Ish Elohim, the godly man. Only Moshe is called the godly man. He reached this unbelievable level. Yet he's the most humble of all people. Right? Moshe is the most humble of all people. His disposition was, I look up at people. Am I greater than them? Ask God. Don't ask me. Right? For me, I'm looking up at people. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm freeing myself from having to be in competition with them and be greater than them. And I'm really allowing myself to respect them and honor them. So that's okay. Comments, questions. Did this complicated idea come across somewhat intelligently?
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was fabulous. I really appreciated all of the nuances that you laid out. I thought it was great. Just two observations. Keats, in his poem, Ode on a Grecian Urn, says, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. Nice.
Okay. He must have had some Kabbalistic research.
He tucked his payas into his kaftan most of the time. And he was there with the best of them. I thought that was just a nice compliment. If you look at the diagram, Yaakov, truth, whatever we called it, is the most connected of all the sphirot. It's got 7 links. The only one that comes close is one that has 5, and that's the one directly above. But diagrammatically, if you go back to the diagram, only Da'at is as connected. But Tiferet infuses most of the other sphirot with its spirit, which was nice. I've seen diagrams of the sphirot that are less complex than this one and don't have all these links. But to me, the interesting thing to parse out are the links. And from that point of view, Tiferet, and if that is where Emet goes, it makes a lot of sense.
So I'll just tell you one thing. I'm not very, you're going beyond my pay grade over here. But if you look in the Sfirat HaOmer, the 49 days of the Omer, you'll often see in the Siddur that it says, well, we're dealing with the 7 lower Sfirot. They often take their own life. And we got 49 days. So each week starts off with one of them. So the first week is the week of Chesed. Week 1, day 1 is Chesed Shebechesed, the Chesed of Chesed. Day 2 of week 1 is Gevura Shebechesed. It's the Gevura aspect of, right? It's the Gevura tone, whatever, effect on Chesed, right? Etc. And then Tiferet of Chesed, and each week, so each Midah has its own week, and in that week it has 7 emanations. So that's a place to start to see, well, what do people say about that? What is Gevura of Chesed, right? How does Gevura, sometimes maybe it's just me. Sometimes you need extreme strength to go and do Chesed. It doesn't suit you to wake up at 6 in the morning to go to the, in a freezing cold morning to go and give out meals on wheels. But that's what it takes. It takes Gevura to do Chesed, etc. Okay.
Rabbi?
Yes.
When we invite I don't know if I'm saying it right,
Ushpizin.
Say it again?
Yes, they relate to these 7.
That's what I was going to say. These are the these are the 7 attributes that or 10 attribute, there are 10.
Seven.
Yeah,
The 7. The 7 and the 7 is Shpizin, definitely. What's interesting is, right, chronologically, it's different to conceptually. So Abraham, Isaac, Jacob is chronological as well as Chesed, Gvura, Veret. Remember, it always starts on the right first. The right stronger than the left in Jewish, right? So Chesed 1, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, but then it goes to Moses and Aaron, and then to Joseph. So you got some people you'll see in the Siddur for Sukkot, in the Machzor for Sukkot. Some people on the 4th night of, right, this is the question. On the 4th night of Sukkot, who is the guest? Is it, according to chronological ordering, Joseph? Or, according to Kabbalistic thinking, Moshe? And as my grandfather said, that should be your biggest problem.
so this tree of life, this Kabbalah teaching, how widespread is it?
This is the basis of Kabbalah.
And do most rabbis and most people understand or even accept this?
Good question. Good question. But beyond the scope of today's class, I would say to you, it's generally accepted. It's very different, according to different groups, very different who learns it. In the yeshiva world, Yoneh Israel, actually very few people learn it. In your Hasidic community, most people learn it. The Hasidim took Kabbalah and put it in layman's terms. That was their genius. Right? So they often use the words, Hasidim are aware of this. They use the terms much more frequently. Yeah. Okay, folks. Let's Abraham, you have some parting words? Not like you to be quiet. You're muted. Abraham, you're muted.
Where would you put Moshe on this chart?
Yeah, Netzach. He's eternity. Netzach means eternity.
Right.
Right? Victory, God's will. Yeah, it's very interesting, by the way. He's not law. Right? Interesting.
Right.
He's not. Moshe is not din. He's okay. Very good. Well,
Thank you. Very good.
Is this a hierarchy? Do you start it from Malchut and go up to Keter? Is it a hierarchy?
So here's the funny thing. The king, Malchut, the king wears a crown.
So it's recursive.
Don't really know. And they're really meant to be 10, but you'll find on here 11, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's Malchut and Keter really are one. But this is why I don't study this stuff too much, because what does that mean? But yes, we could go into that one day.
You aren't yet 40. When you're 40, we'll talk to you about
Yes,
it.
Linda, there's a statement in the Talmud that seems to say you should only start learning Kabbalah when you're 40 years old.
And married.
And married and Yeah.
I studied it in college.
Yeah.
That explains your problems. That explains all your problems.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't remember much, unfortunately.
You know what? It's fascinating, but it's very abstract and very ethereal. And most of the time, it's very hard to apply to life. unless you really get it. And that's why it doesn't make sense. Like, unless you're really well-based, you're well-based in Judaism, in the simplicity, right? You know, yeah, you're talking these big things, you know, Madonna and her Kabbalah, very nice. But hello, you know, wash your hands for a moitzi and then let's talk. You know, like you gotta. Okay.
Doesn't Mel, the verb in the bottom represents sexuality, animalness, or whatever? Or
Yesod, this one more. This Yosef at Tzaddik. Why is Joseph the Tzaddik? Because he was able to control that part of him, right? When Mrs. Potiphar wants, right?
Right.
Is mad about him, he's able to withstand. So that's Yesod.
Like a safety valve almost there.
And that would not be King. That would not be King David.
King David gets a bad rap. King David's great. He did Teshuvah.
All men feel King David's great.
Funny. Come on, King David's book, Tehillim, Psalms, is read by more women than men, for sure. He could speak every person's language, Taurus, need. He expressed it in the book of Psalms. It's the most widely read, recited book in the whole of probably the world.
That is a question I will never understand. Why certain people are excused from their behaviors and others that are not.
You will understand it at the end of days.
But hang on, why is he excused, Linda? I mean, he's punished dreadfully, and he's shown in all his he's shown fully as a flawed man. Why do you say he's not excused? He's not excused. Who excuses him?
The fact that he has become one of our major patriarchs, to me, allows certain, I mean, law is law. He literally had a man killed.
You're forgetting Chesed and Rachamim. Okay, friends,
I understand. And I call him King David. I think there's a lot of good about him. And there's a lot of good about everyone and every one of these patriarchs, or whatever we want to call them. What do we call them?
Oh, it's interesting, by the way. There are only 3 patriarchs.
Right. Huh? So what do we call
Abraham? I'm going to tell you a funny story. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Talmud says King David, right? And why they call the patriarchs? Look at our prayers. Let's just go there quickly. Right? Baruch atah Hashem Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. You're the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we all come from them. So King David said, I want to be there too. I want people to say, I'm the God of David. So Hashem said to King David, but I tested them. I haven't tested you. So King David said, go ahead, test me. And that was the story of Bathsheba. He failed.
There you go. So there's your real answer as far as
punishment. Hang on. Is that whose drasha is that?
I think it's in the Talmud.
It's in the Talmud. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So what are the other 4? They're not our patriarchs. What are they considered?
Leaders? Listen, King David has his own. He's the Mashiach. The Mashiach comes from King David.
Right, that's true.
Right? So there again, like when Uri said, how's he excused? History excuses him. He's the Mashiach. His children his descendant is his manifestation is the savior of the Jewish people. I don't know, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is called our rabbi. Aaron HaKohen, he's the Kohen. And Yosef a Tzaddik. Yosef is known as the Tzaddik. But they don't get like that ancestral patriarch names. They don't. Remember, they are already, they're one of the tribes. All the 12 tribes from Yaakov, we're all Jews. All 12. Okay, peoples, I have to end here because I got to end at 2:30. And I have to do
Okay.
4 months of Hebrew with Linda.
Thank you.
You.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nothing like adding a question about sexuality. Moses.
Okay.
Hi, what's wrong? You okay?
I'm just laughing at Abraham's last comment. He's so funny. Do you know how old he is?
No.
82?
Really?
He's been doing fasting. He fasts like once every week. It's just like a liquid fast since he's 20. You've never met a person in such good physical shape in his 80s as Abraham. He's
Wow.
thin. He's like, yeah.
He fasts
Okay.
one day a week?
Something like that. There's a book out there that some guy came up with this diet. It's enough for me, all the fasts in Judaism. I can't stand that.
And I'm not good at it either. We just went away to the beach this weekend and I gained 4 pounds.
That's
4
Pretty
4
good.
pounds in 3 days. Okay.
Where are we up to?
We are 25. We're at the Shinantam.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, this is a difficult word. It really is unique to over here. Let me just pull this over. Where are we? Okay. Okay, Vishinantam. So, this is an interesting grammar over here. The word shinan means to teach, to teach. It's one of the words to teach. Now, if it would have said Vishinanta, what would have that meant?
You? No. And